dig up a past I swore would stay buried.
You will always be a monster.
Ares! I have nothing more to hide.
The ghost of Sparta had been born.
So, the other day I was watching this video Kaptain Kuba uploaded about how Thor might still be alive in the God of War universe, and how we might expect him to return in the future God of War games. And it got me thinking about something my brother told me that day. He said that this was the first time he saw a community theorize explanations for the plot holes in their favorite game instead of accepting the fact that their favorite game has plot holes, where I'm going to explain a different approach to explain why Thor disintegrated into particles, or rather, I'm not. For those who haven't watched Kaptain Kuba's video, pretty much Kaptain Kuba theorizes that Thor has ascended to a higher plane of existence since he died in a noble manner, standing up against Odin for the sake of his daughter.
We don't change. Or destroy us. No more. No more. For the sake of our children, we must be better.
Why isn't he dead? Are you talking? Who told you to do that? You don't talk! You don't think! I think, you kill! It's a simple fucking concept!
Sif was right about you. I just didn't want to see it.
What is this? Are you broken? I am your father. Take the hammer and kill who I tell you to kill!
No.
I didn't want this.
And the fact that Thor disintegrates into blue particles instead of just dying and becoming a corpse as Balder, Magni and Modi did supports his claim. Or does it? Before I go any further, I want to make it clear that I have nothing against Kaptain Kuba. He's a massive inspiration for this channel and I thoroughly enjoy his videos. His video about Thor will be in the description box for anyone interested, or you can click on the tag in the top right corner and it will take you there. I'm making this video simply to challenge myself and the God of War community to think outside of the box a little bit. Anyway, Kaptain Kuba, if you're watching, hi! To understand if Thor has actually ascended to a higher plane of existence, we must first divulge how Athena ascended. And this story we're all familiar with. Athena sacrificed herself for Zeus, and the selfless act allowed her to become a more extraordinary being. Here's Corey Barlog saying this himself.
So what I was setting up into was this idea that Athena had died and was the first person in the pantheon of gods to actually have a selfless act, to die from a selfless act. So she had kind of ascended to this higher level. And then at first she's somewhat altruistic and being like, hey, wow, okay, I did pretty good. But then she starts to realize, wait a minute, I can actually affect the rest of the world. I don't want anybody else to get up here.
So to assume Thor also ascended because of his newfound nobility at the end of his life is not that far-fetched, right? Well, first of all, we need to establish the fact that Thor is quite the douchebag, and he's been so practically all his life, whereas Athena has been wise and forgiving up until her death. Also, Athena literally sacrificed herself, whereas Thor only had a change of heart. So to put them in the same category doesn't make much sense. But if that doesn't convince you, let's take a look at the particles Thor expels before he dies. Would you say this would be the first time you saw these blue particles in the game? If you said yes, you're wrong. As a matter of fact, we saw these blue particles multiple times during Thor's fight. Here, here, and even at the end when Thrud collects her father's hammer. Well, what could this mean? Well, we know that the green particles that Athena expels after her death, and the particles we see around her in God of War 2018, and possibly the particles around the mask and the rift we see in Ragnarok, are all connected to the plane of higher existence. The developers made the link between this color and the higher realm very clear. And so the particles we see here don't seem to fit into the puzzle. In fact, these particles seem to be linked to lightning or thunder, which makes sense, since Thor is the only Aesir god we know that holds an elemental power. He quite literally controls lightning with his bare hands and without his hammer. This is something no other god can do. Not even Magni and Moldy, they required weapons to contain their thunder. So the fact that Thor disintegrated into these blue particles could just be a means to portray Thor's elemental power over lightning. But if you're not satisfied with that answer, I have one more that I'm sure would convince you. One that definitely convinced me. The so-called selfless deed of standing up against some bald, menacing force for the sake of one's daughter has been seen before. With who, do you ask? With Hephaestus.
Kratos, you sent me to my death?
No, calm yourself, Kratos. I knew you were up to the challenge. I truly needed the Ophalo stone, you'll see.
Make it quick, old man.
A weapon such as this can't be rushed. This will be worth the wait. A fine weapon like no other. As I promised. My beautiful Pandora. Please, spare her. Pandora, forgive me.
Hephaestus stood up against Kratos, Kratos obviously being the bald menacing force, for the sake of his daughter, Pandora. And we know for the fact Hephaestus did not disintegrate into particles or ascend to a higher plane of existence. So why would Thor standing up against Odin, this time Odin being the bald menacing force, for the sake of his daughter, Thrud, result in Thor ascending to a higher plane of existence? It just doesn't add up. But here's one more theory I'm just going to throw out there in case none of you are convinced by what I said or what Kaptain Kuba theorized. Are you ready? The disintegration of Thor is simply a plot hole. Something the developers simply did not think of. Something that passed over Eric Williams' head. Psych, no shot! I personally believe Thor is dead, and that the reason he disintegrates was either because the developers wanted to portray Thor's elemental power of thunder, or I don't know, some sort of magic in Odin's spear. There is no way, there is no reason behind Thor's disintegration. There definitely is one, and if I didn't point it out this video, I'm sure it'll be clarified in the future. Now, before I end this theory, I must clarify that despite what the thumbnail says, Kaptain Kuba is not actually wrong, nor is he right, and neither am I. Both of our videos are theories, and at the end of the day, it's just speculation. I love the God of War community so much, and my brother made me realize that to a deeper extent when, again, he said that the God of War community is basically so loyal to their franchise that they refuse to acknowledge its plot holes. Are there plot holes, though? You tell me. Comment down below what you think. That includes you, Kaptain Kuba. See ya.